Welcome to Rise and Thrive Conversations for Greatness with John Merkus. It's for personal growth, it's for motivation, it's for inspiration, it's for success, this podcast. This is part 2. If you haven't heard part 1, you can go back an episode or just dive into this. It's awesome. They both feature Renee Merkus. She's a titan of sales and a beacon of personal growth and success.
So I realized that people buy from people. When I was around about 10 years old, and my dad and mum needed to buy a new car. There was a Magna on one side of the road, Pintara at another car place across the road on the other side. And so the two cars were really equivalent, features, benefits, all of those things. And it came down to my dad liked the bloke with the Magna. So he then went, well, I don't know which one's better. They're both pretty much the same, do the same thing, drive the same. So he then purchased the Magna, and we then had that for probably 10 years. So that was a really good example of just the power of humans. And you use there's emotion in purchasing, and then you use your brain to, rationalize it and then you give those reasons, those rational reasons, but it really is centered around the relationships and the confidence and that human element.
It's really interesting what you said, because we might do this without realizing it. You make the decision and you say, I want to buy that off that person because I like them. And then you rationalize it and think 100%. Of all the reasons why you got to justify why you're going to do that.
Yep, that's right. And then you've also got to be really careful as a salesperson with buyer's remorse. Like we all, we buy something and we really then go, oh, should I take it back and things like that. So then you've still got to continue your selling. You've still got to continue your activity post even when the ink is dry, because they could potentially bring it back. So you're always selling. And then even in my role, it's about, well, how do you make sure that project is successful? So you're constantly continuing on with those relationships. You never leave those relationships because you want those people that you've sold to become your raving fans. There was actually a book on that, and I learned that sort of saying 10, 15, 20 years ago, raving fans, because they're your best references. So use your own network and continue, and you never know when you're actually going to meet them.
So when you're saying about selling, what I'm hearing is about creating value and benefits for others, right? So I know sales can be a bit of a dirty word for some people, and I think that comes from where people have been sold something that they might not necessarily want, or they do have that buyer's remorse. So what I'm hearing, what you're saying, is that you're constantly creating value and highlighting benefits during the sales process and also after the sale, like you were just talking about, you having your raving fans.
Oh, it's pre, during, and post as well. And then you never know where that network, whether or not they leave one company and they go to another or a different government department. So you're always about your relationships and adding value to them. And, one of the methodologies, I think it was the Challenger methodology is about how to change their views to not just to sell to them, but to help them learn something, which is about that sales experience of disrupting the customer's current thinking and not just selling them something, but educating them as well.
Yeah, right. I like that education process mindset in the selling. I just wanted to mention that as well because sometimes I think people think selling's a dirty word, but it's not. And I've heard that expression, we're always selling. Everyone's always selling.
And negotiating.
Yeah. So what are your thoughts on that, that we're all selling all the time?
Oh, well, we are. Well, we're all negotiating. Can you do the dishwasher because I'm busy or something like that? We're always selling and negotiating, give and take. But I don't see it as a dirty word. I'm really proud of the profession that I have. It's sometimes, I've flown up to Sydney on many occasions just to have lunch with a senior executive. And then people say, oh, where are you today? Oh, I'm in Sydney. I'm going off to have lunch. But in actual fact, that lunch took maybe team meetings, several hours to prepare for. And then you've got your whole list of things that you need to achieve and what you want to cover and move forward. And then there's, I sit there at the lunch during having my wine and take the notes so that I'm really clear and I remember everything and the action items. And, then if you can also exceed that person's expectation. So before they've even got back to their desk, you've already actioned something. That's what makes the difference with me versus a competitor. I don't think that selling is a dirty word. I think salespeople, professional salespeople, which is what I am, we work really hard and we take our jobs really seriously. And I hope that we're respected with our target audience and our colleagues as well.
Reminds me of that meme you see where it says what it's about salespeople. It says what people think we do and what we actually do. So you've really described that, because what people think you do is, oh, it's pretty easy and you just go out to lunches and whatever. But you've just described what really happens in some of the background, some of the thinking during, and some of the action that you'll take afterwards to get the most out of that interaction, that experience. And you're connecting with that person on a human level as well. I love how you connect with the people that you're selling to, because it's genuine. You really have a genuine interest in what's happening in their lives, both personally and professionally. You're that kind of person. And I think it goes to a little bit of what you were saying earlier about how, people buy from people that they like, and you're not manufacturing that. You're pretty likable. You're effervescent. You've got a great bubbly personality. You're happy, and people like to be around that. So I think that works for you without you having to do much, and it's genuine. And then you've got all the discipline and the processes that you add on to all of that. And I think that's a bit of some of the mixture in your cake of success that really helps you bake a great cake.
Oh, thank you. No, it's true. So yes, because I'm such a good cake baker. So domestic goddess, I don't think I am. But yeah, you're right. So very early on, I learned some, it's called targeted account selling, TAS for short. And that's, again, a sales methodology that they show you that you need to do your research, you need to identify who the key people are that you're selling to, and then put a plan together. So for an example, it might say, one of those things is what's a compelling event? A compelling event is going to mean that they need to sort of like buy, but it's not for my compelling event, it's what's their compelling event. And so then you have to do research. You have to take the time to really understand, to be able to answer a series of questions that then you've got. Why are they likely to buy? When are they likely to buy? And what do you need to do to get them there? So there's been lots of research, and there was one, I don't know what it's called, but it was talking about where you've got teams and they color coded them. And one was really emotional and relationships and evangelists and forward thinking. And the other team was very much about prove it and then I'll believe it. So more on the engineering, the scientist kind of background. And there was a person who wanted to mine an area. So he asked a team to go and make a decision. So the team came back and said, no, don't do it. The decision maker said, no, we're just going to mine that area. And sure enough, they found whether it was gold or iron or whatever they were looking for. And then this led this person to then think about, well, what was the team construct? And so typically there's 4 different colors, but I'll just summarize it, say green and blue and yellow and red. And they found that the green and the blue were more on the analytical side, prove it until I'll believe it until I see it type of thing. Typically architects and scientists, and then on the other side you had the more evangelists and the relationship and just more visionary type of people. And the team that he had made the decision were more on the green side. And so then what that's all taught us is to actually have a really high performing team. You need from both. And that's what I actually have. I have people who are obviously from all different spectrums, and I try to surround myself with people that aren't like-minded for me, but are different from me, that can bring different things to the equation that will help propel us forward.
Great.
That was some of the training some of the training that's really imperative, as well as your gut instincts.
Yeah, so you're talking a little bit there about personality profiling and how they attribute a colour to a way of being that some people tend to be. Doesn't mean they're only that way, but it means they have a tendency towards that way.
That's correct.
And so you're able to understand that people do have tendencies in the way that they operate, and those people were profiled. And so one of the lessons that you've gained out of that is to have a mix of all of those kind of people
Yes.
around you to get the best outcome.
Yep, I don't want them all to be of a similar personality type as me. I don't think that that provides a balanced view, and I like to actually be challenged as well. The other one that whenever I'm going into a heavy negotiation, I dust off Chris Voss. So Chris was a former FBI agent, and he wrote a book with all of his experience on how to negotiate. Because I do sometimes feel that we're negotiating, I don't know, with the terrorists and things like that, but it's certainly very heavy, and these negotiations can go on for months, and you're up at 6 o'clock in the morning and you're not finishing till 6 or 8 o'clock at night with everything that you've got to achieve with your strategy and your planning and your execution. So Chris Voss, when he writes Never Split the Difference, one of his focuses on how to maximize your negotiation position. And I use that extensively within my career. And you can do it also in your personal life, but certainly within my career to maximize the outcome for my organization and myself as well.
Great. Chris Voss, the FBI agent, wrote that book, and that's quite a popular book. And you have really gained a lot out of that.
Oh, it's fantastic. He does a TED Talk as well. And so I'd highly recommend anyone. And I should try and use that to negotiate with our kids. Is it crazy that you could clean up your room today? Well, no, it's not crazy. I could do that. But whether or not you will.
He talks about starting a sentence that way, right?
Yeah, something like along those lines. Is it crazy? So he also talks about building a rapport first and with your target audience, and then they go, yeah, you get me, and then moving on from there. So you must build rapport, and then you can start the true negotiations, and sometimes losing a hand because it gives the other person a feeling of power as well. So no actually helps you to move forward as well in your life. Within my organization, we do so much planning to ensure that we are successful.
Now, we've heard about some lessons that you'd learned from your mum and some of the mindsets and the philosophies that you've been able to take away and learn as a young child, by the way. So that's super powerful to learn those kind of lessons, like you've got that safety net with your mum, and then how your mum had that non-limiting beliefs about you and demonstrated that and showed you, which gave you the belief to think that you can do anything that you set your mind to, which is magnificent. You've got an amazing work ethic. You work very hard. Your job demands that you work very hard. Not all people have that, but I think you got that from your dad, who has an amazing work ethic, demonstrated that. He's 80 years old. He's still working because he loves it, still has an awesome work ethic at that age, still demonstrating great philosophies and mindsets with the work that he does. So that has influenced you to take on that. What's your feelings on that? When did you learn that? What did you see? How have you taken that on? Do you think that, is it just my observation, or do you really do think that came from your dad?
Yeah, so my dad is very inspiring. I've watched him. I think you don't really understand all of the influences that you have along the way, particularly as you're a kid. But certainly seeing my father get up, who's a plumber, get up on the roof as an 80-year-old man in the heat, because he either loves it and his goals are bigger than his fears. I've learnt that you just keep going. And I had a homemaker as a mum and my father being a plumber. And so when I joined the corporate world, I didn't know how to dress properly, what suits to wear. And so there was a show, I think, back then, Murphy Brown, something like that. And so there was these women wearing these suits in powerful positions. And so I emulated that. I would go and then go to the shops and learn. So you don't know where all your influences come from, but certainly having my father being such a hardworking person and giving us a lovely life, that's inspired me to work really hard. And I've been told by a couple of sales managers that I'm the hardest working person in their sales team. And whether or not that comes from the influence of my dad, which I know a lot of it has, or whether or not that comes because I've been a woman over the last 30 years in a male-dominated world, that I've had to do a bit more to achieve the same results, or sometimes even better. It's propelled me to have a very high working ethic. But also in my career, the more I do, the more I can earn for my family and the more choices I have. So I'm driven by, I want choices in my life. That's what propels me. So I think other people, you've got to find your mantra, the thing that works for you. And that's the primary basis of everything for me, is I want choices. So how do I get choices? And so the way to do that is to work hard and to work smart. So I then provide for myself and my family, and that's very important.
What a great philosophy. And knowing that, having the awareness of that philosophy and having that drive you in your activities, that's your why. And we all get told that you need to have a strong why and an important why. And yours is very strong and important. And that drives you to achieve the success that you do. And let's not, I was going to say bare any bones, but make any bones, whatever the saying is, you're very successful in your field. I do like it though, how you've mentioned a couple of times that you are a woman in a male-dominated industry, but instead of going, oh, look, there's heaps of men around, and this makes it hard for me or whatnot, that motivates you to go, great, that's where I'm at.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get into it. Let's make it happen, and let's achieve. So you've used it as a motivator to be successful rather than a reason why you're not.
Yeah, I don't focus a lot. I've never focused a lot that I'm a minority in my organization. I've never taken it as a negative. I've never taken it that I'm less than or anything. Yes, I acknowledge it, but I just move forward and I'm equal. Sometimes I'm better, sometimes I'm not, being honest. But it was never a barrier for me. And it's part of why I love Australia. It's because if you want to achieve something and you want it badly enough and you're prepared to put the work in, because it does take work, it doesn't just materialize. If you put the work in, the dedication, build the relationships, have a great family that supports you, and you believe in yourself, and you do the personal development that you need to bridge any gap of where you want to be, Australia is an amazing place for rewarding the efforts with achievement.
What a great philosophy. What a great philosophy, and so great for our listeners to hear that you've pretty much just summarized your secret sauce, and it works and it's delicious. I wanted to also mention that you do have a love of technology. You love what technology can give and the benefits that people can get by embracing some of the technology that you've sold in the past and that you sell now. So I wanted to ask you about that, and especially these days, well, like you're big on innovation and growth, and so I'm interested in what are some of the trends you're seeing now, some of the landscape you're dealing with, and what do you think is the next 1 to 5 years is going to happen in the technology space for you?
Thanks. I work in digital transformation. So I'll take a step back. So when I was a teenager, there was a lot of people around me that were, their parents were born overseas. And so communication, collaboration, all of those things, it was really difficult to be able to call back and to be able, they certainly weren't able to use FaceTime and see their families. And so this experience around me, all I ever wanted to do was work for Telstra. So when I left university, arts marketing at Monash, all I wanted to do was work into technology. And I did, it was a 4-year degree and I did 3 years. So I didn't have a lot going for me. So to get into the industry I wanted to get into, because I hadn't finished my degree. So I used all of the tools around me. I made sure back then I printed my resume on really thick, good quality paper. And then I found a person in the newspaper. It was a Telstra job, and it was like it was way beyond my capacity, my capability. But I reached out to that person and then asked them for their help to be able to get into the industry I wanted. And this person then gave me some names in the corporate marketing, in the city, in the CBD, because that's all I wanted to do. And I didn't want to go sideways. I wanted to go straight. I wanted to get to the city, to the CBD, to be where it was all happening. I then got an interview, and I was employed in the field that I wanted. And so I've been in technology, ICT, for my entire career. And it's certainly the landscape has changed. And also now what we're seeing with generative AI, artificial intelligence, and how that's going to impact us. We're right. It's not even on the cusp of it. It's now changing our lives. We've had it for years, and we've used, like with Facebook and things, like with the ads that come up. So it's been happening for a long time, but it's just the acceleration of it. And I always like to think, well, where do I want to go with my career? So I'm very happy with where I am now. I've been a sales manager, I've been a marketing manager, I've been a sales executive, and I like where I am right now. But you have to also think, well, what is the next phase? What is it that I want to do in the next 3 to 5 years in the domain that I work in? And so generative AI is very disruptive. It's where code writes itself, but you still need a human. So therefore, jobs, what you needed to do that maybe took 2 days now takes 10 minutes with a human to review. So there will be job losses. And what's that impact on me from a career perspective? I've thought about, well, if my industry is disrupted, how will we be disrupted, and how can I maybe take advantage of that to help with my future career? I think I'm going to be good.
Yeah, I think you will be too. And I like the way that you're already thinking about how can you take advantage of that. It reminds me of people have said with artificial intelligence coming in, it is bigger than when the internet came in. So more disruptive than that. Also, It also reminds me about how when the motor car came into existence and horse and buggy, horse and cart were phased out, that was also very disruptive. Jobs changed. So where we say you might have lost, well, yeah, you might have been a horse and cart buggy fixer and now you're a motor mechanic or something. So you do need to evolve and change, and that's what humankind has done over many, many years. This is massive. It's exponential. It's going to affect the entire world, I believe. It's definitely going to affect your world. But I love how you're saying, okay, it's coming. What do I need to do?
So where will I survive and thrive? Not just survive, but where will I thrive? So how do I make sure that I protect myself and then move with the times as well? And I have a plan in place for that. And I also think that there's some jobs that will be impacted more than others. As mentioned earlier, people buy from people. But one of the key things that we do is we provide case studies for all the executives, and we craft those and we help connect people. Now, whether or not generative AI can do that, I think human touch is still better. And that's one of the key value propositions that we provide for our target audience. So I think that I am being impacted, but I think my job is, and in 5 years, we'll look back on this interview and go, well, how accurate was I? But I think that you've got to put yourself in a winning position. You've got to put yourself in a secure position. And I think I've done that. And I've had choices to move out of the industry I'm in. But I just think that technology is not going anywhere. Technology is accelerating. There's always going to be technology. And I haven't picked one of the streams that's got the I think most sustainable and growth is obviously security, IT security. And I didn't want to get into that. I like the art of what's possible with the areas of technology that I'm in that's growing as well.
You're more about adding value and benefits with what's possible rather than protecting from a security threat in IT. That doesn't light your fire as much as helping organisations and people achieve their goals through technology. Now, I know sometimes you're bound by confidentiality agreements and things like that. So I'm not going to ask you for necessarily a specific example, but I would like to know what's some technology that you have sold and how has that made a difference to people or a business or a process?
So I sell software. And so you've also got hardware, routers and, networking and things like that. So that's like the cables that join the communication together. I never wanted to do the latter two. I always wanted to be in more of the software or the consulting sales. And software and data, as we know, is the biggest currency, bigger than gold. I wanted to be in these at the heart of transformation because it impacts, like with what I'm doing now, it impacts our kids' lives. It impacts my life and my parents' life. So all of the generations. So it's very rewarding to get paid well for something that you absolutely love. Several years back, I was selling some technology to an organization that had a parent company over in Europe. And some of the benefits that they had listed that from our technology that was going to be created for their organization were quite significant. So by moving to us and spending millions of dollars, they were going to have these key benefits. And at the time, I was talking to the CEO and the CFO, which is Chief Financial Officer and Chief Executive Officer. And if those benefits weren't realized, they would lose their jobs. That's pretty significant on my shoulders. If we didn't have the benefits realization with the investment, so the return on investment that they had put forward to make these changes, they would lose their jobs. Now, I knew these people. I had been out to coffees, we'd have off-sites. We'd been selling into them for about 12 months. Most of the time I sell to people in corporations that, will have a job irrespective of the outcome. But that made it very personal. So we were able to deliver, and let's just say they were able to keep their jobs. But there was a lot on my shoulders for that sale, and I'll never forget that one. Out of the hundreds of sales that I've had throughout my career, that became very personal to me.
Yeah, I can really see that. And it's really great that the CEO and the CFO also had the trust in you based on what you had proposed and the relationship that you had cultivated and generated and how genuine it was, that you took on that responsibility as well. So it's not only them losing their jobs, but it could have had repercussions for you, but personally and morally as well. And that's what I like about that story that you've said there, that you took that on and was very significant for you in those areas.
Absolutely. I stayed across all of the delivery. There was another client that I had that their website went down at Christmas and they were on the front page of the news, and they hadn't wanted to talk to me prior to this incident. And so I had been in contact with them. And once this retail chain had this incident, they then were far more receptive to talk to me. And what the technology did at the time, it's called application performance management. So it tracks how your application with being hit with lots of load at a particular time. And so it's like having visibility of your requirements or your network and your applications at any time. We rolled this out, and they rolled it out. And there was a lot of nervous people at the following Christmas because, again, they would have lost their jobs. The whole team, it would have been unacceptable. And with the way that it had been deployed, the things that they'd fixed through the year to get their performance right, they said that they were watching on Christmas Day and the following week, and they ended up playing cricket in their building because there was nothing to see. So we were all waiting with bated breath for the success because of what we had achieved throughout that, planning leading up, making sure that the network and everything was stable. And that was then another great achievement.
That's a big deal because you wanted to talk to them for a while. So there goes that work ethic again, and how sometimes you've got to take the action, not necessarily knowing what the outcome is. You know what the outcome is that you want is you want to talk to them and let them know what some of the benefits are and whatnot and value of talking to you. You're saying no, 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 no. Something happens. Then because of that activity that you did, they're willing to speak to you to go, actually, I think we do need you. And then so the application, and the reason Christmas is so significant, I would imagine, is because that's when the retail site gets a lot of hits on it. And in the past, it couldn't keep up the previous year. So they've spoken to you. You've implemented the things that you need to do to make it a lot more resilient and robust for the next Christmas. And then they're seeing the results, and that's actually given them a happy Christmas because of the work that you did. So it does really impact people's lives.
And it lives on. Like, it doesn't just live on for that one Christmas, it lives on for sometimes a decade with technology. So it's pretty exciting to know that I've been able to help all of these different organisations or government departments provide better citizen experience or experience internally. And I find that very rewarding. I'm really helping propel these organisations to meet their goals or the citizen goals.
Yeah, and society. And I wanted to touch on that because we've talked a bit about your personal motivators, but then there's all these other motivators because you often talk to me about the difference what you're doing is going to make. So I really wanted to make sure that we touched on that as well. So thank you for that.
That's right. It's my pleasure. It certainly motivates me. And when you lose a sale, because I've lost, I win more than I lose, but it just destroys me. It's a very hard pill to swallow once you've done a sales campaign and you know these people personally. And I had one 2 years ago that the person who had to ring me, he said, "I'm not wanting this call, Renee." It's like, yeah, neither am I. And one of the reasons why I think I lost that is because it was during COVID and I couldn't go into the office when we were doing our final presentation. And the technology back then, for some reason, I couldn't see anybody in the room. And so therefore, if we were going a bit off course with our last final bid, I couldn't read any of the room to see whether or not we were on track or not and make any adjustments, then overnight, then come back the next day. So because sometimes that's where you need to be able to be in the room to read the audience or to do it even virtually. So that was a hard pill to swallow.
Right, gotcha. So you're very invested in what you do, and passionate, which is absolutely fantastic. So I can see how life has its ups and downs, careers has its ups and downs, and if you're really passionate about something and it doesn't work out, that does affect you. I also know that you bounce back.
Yeah.
I think I've heard you say before, gave myself a day to be sad about that or whatnot, and then it's like, okay, we've got to move on now. So you can't,
100%.
you give yourself that time, but it's a specific time and then go, okay, I've had that, I've done that, that's complete now, I've got to move on. That's really powerful.
Be kind to yourself, recognize, see where you are, wallow, in my case. Don't talk to me. I'm so distressed. And I am genuinely distressed about it when that does happen. But at the same time, then it's just like, okay, right, what's next? And then I still check in to see how the project's going, because you just never know. They might just go, "That's not going really well." Well, I'm here. I'm still here, and I'm still here to support you if you need it. So leave the door always open for the further opportunities to come my way.
Yeah, that goes to longevity of relationships as well, because sometimes I think with salespeople, they haven't won the sale and that's it. You never hear from them again and you're dust and you're nothing. And that's not a very good experience for the person at the other end where you're not like that. And I think that makes a big difference. And I think that's part of the reason that you're successful.
Thanks. I hope so. It's not uncommon for me to have followed a person to 3 different organisations, or when I've been in 4 different organisations over the last 10, 20 years, or they have been, and then I reconnect with them. I think it's, again, those connections are critical to my success, to what I do. With my role, the harder I work, harder and smarter I work, the more money I can earn. So, and the more success I can have. So that makes it sometimes really tricky, because if you want to go on a holiday, you're always on. When I had maternity leave for our 2 kids, I took 5 months off and then came back full time, because I've had other colleagues that have taken, maybe only come back 3 or 4 days, but they are actually working, because that's the nature of what we do. And so I think you've just got to work out what's going to work for you. And so I went back full time straight after the 2 kids, because I knew I wouldn't get a break if I'm in sales. It's just the nature of the profession that I've chosen.
Another testament to your work ethic and having those goals and that mindset and making it work for you. So, Renee, I am a young salesperson, just started in IT, something I've always wanted to do. I'm having a cup of coffee with you and I say to you, what's some advice you can give to me to achieve greatness in my career?
Great question, John.
Well, you've given us heaps of gold so far in terms of mindset and the activity and all of that stuff. So
Yeah.
definitely. But let's say I'm sitting down with a coffee. I'm a young starter. I'm a young person. I'm in IT. I've just started. I can see you as very successful. I want to be like you one day. And sorry. And
What's so funny?
what's your advice?
Yeah. Number one would be watch and learn. Watch and learn from those that you deem as successful. I liked how you said that you're in a career that you want, because I think that that's like the number one thing, and then you can prosper. So have a watch and learn, a growth mentality. I've certainly had that with more senior executive sales directors, and where they've acted as a mentor for me. So see whether or not, get a commitment, because you've always got to get agreements for if you want things to work out the way, and then hold people accountable. So ask if, someone would act as a mentor for you, or can I check in with you if not that I'm stumbling, but if I want some guidance. So develop a coach, somebody that you can go to continue to learn, because sometimes we don't know what direction we need to go in. So having that can really help propel you. And then you take on whether or not that works for you, that advice, and then make your own decisions. Back yourself as well. Be confident and back yourself. Learn the technology, learn it really well, so that then you can hold your own. And then also learn different sales methodologies, so such as targeted account selling, read some books, always have a learning ethos about you and how I can personally develop myself, as well as also on the technology as well, because you need both to be successful. You need that personal development, and you need to understand what you're selling and why you're selling it.
I love that. Now, that would translate whether in technology or anything. If you're selling tractors, that will also translate. So if you're selling sandwiches, that would also translate. So,
or if you're a doctor or something like that, even if you're a young doctor and you emulate, if you've seen somebody who's really successful, the way that they are in a hospital, work out how they are getting their success. And their success obviously is a very different outcome with patient health and patient lives and things, but how are they balancing their workload? How are they approaching their patients, their bedside manner? What are they seeing that's being really successful in their outcomes that they're seeking?
So they say success leaves clues, and so your advice is to pick up on those clues by doing what you just said. Thank you. And I often ask my guests this question. Renee Merkus, what's a question that you wish that I'd asked you today on the interview?
I don't think it's an actual question. I want to make a comment.
Okay.
So when we were talking about what, rise and thrive and that greatness, one of the things that I'm really impressed about is when I talked about chase that dream, and that dream, as the dream won't chase you back, you have to chase it. I'm so supportive of what you're doing, and I'm so impressed and proud. For a long time, you've been talking about different options of how you wanted to present on a sort of global scale with the wisdom that you've learned and achieved and been a facilitator. And we've thrown around some ideas over the last decade plus. And then the podcast, you started examining, and you did the education, the investment to make your dream a reality, with you getting up at 5 a.m, not drinking any alcohol as well. None of that, because you need to be a high performing individual, which is a lot of, and that's what, to get what you want, you have to put the effort in, and you've been doing that. And so I'm so proud of you. And the feedback we get on this podcast is outstanding, and it's hitting people all over the world, and it's just going to get bigger and bigger. So my ask for anyone who's listened to this is follow, share. If you think that there's a great person that should be interviewed, suggest them, or yourself, because this is an outstanding vehicle that you're helping to change people's lives and inspire people. And I'm so proud that you are chasing your dream, and you are making it happen.
Thank you, Renee. That means so much to me, so much. I really, really appreciate that. You're talking about some of the actions that I've taken to achieve my dreams, and it ties in a lot with what you've said. If you've got a dream, you will take the actions. You will get up early because we've got a lot to juggle here with all the things that we do.
Well, it's the truth. It's how I feel. I'm so proud of you. It's not necessarily good for me because it takes you away from doing domestic jobs, but tasks and everything. But the overall, it's worth it for your goals and what you want for your life, personally, professionally.
Yeah, and for us, and it really lights my fire. So it makes me a better person because I'm doing something that I love and passionate about, and I'm in these conversations. So we've had this awesome conversation today. I'm having these on a weekly basis.
Amazing.
Then when I edit the episode, I hear it again, and then when it's out there into the world, I listen to it again. So I'm in this conversation of greatness the whole time, and it's really making a massive difference to my life, my well-being, our lives, and I'm so wrapped we're on this journey together. Now, I can't say this about every guest. I can't say this actually about any guest, but I'm going to say, Renee Merkus, you're inspirational, you're motivation, you're a high achiever, and you're damn hot, and I'm glad I'm married to you. That's the bit I can't tell. I can't say to every guest.
No, please don't. Please don't be saying that to any other guests. I might get concerned.
Thanks so much for being on the show. I can see you being back on the show multiple times. I know our audience is going to love you just like I do. Hopefully a little bit less than I do, but just like I do. Renee Merkus, you're awesome. Thanks for being on the show.
My pleasure, John. Thanks. I love you.
Thanks for joining us on Rise and Thrive Conversations for Greatness with John Merkus. Remember, you are loved, you are worthy, and you do matter. Embrace the journey of personal growth and motivation. Let's go out there and do something great. Follow or subscribe for more insights and inspiration every Tuesday. Until next time, stay awesome.